Floyd Mayweather. In boxing history, dozens of fighters have retired undefeated, but none did so with the mastery, precision, and consistency of Floyd Mayweather Jr. His name immediately evokes absolute control in the ring, impenetrable defense, and a career crafted like a work of art. This is what allowed him to win all his fights. He achieved a legendary 50 wins and 0 loss record, behind which lies a journey far more complex than the numbers suggest. Son of Floyd Sr., a former boxer turned trainer, Floyd Jr. grew up in gyms among punching bags and gloves that were too big for his small hands. Early on, he displayed extraordinary ring intelligence. As an amateur, he amassed 84 wins with only 6 losses. In 1996, he earned a bronze medal at the Atlanta Olympics, frustrated by a controversial decision in the semifinals. This injustice fueled an obsession: never again leave the outcome of his fights to the judges. His style is hit and not get hit, a science of movement, timing, and especially a revolutionary defense, the shoulder roll, that high guard with the right shoulder raised, which drove his opponents crazy. Turning professional at 19, he quickly climbed the ranks and became world champion in 1998 by defeating Genaro Hernandez. But that was just the beginning. Floyd gradually faced the best of each era, often when observers thought he was finally vulnerable. Oscar De La Hoya, Miguel Cotto, Ricky Hatton, Canelo Alvarez, Juan Manuel Marquez, Shane Mosley. The list is staggering. 23 champions defeated, more than any other undefeated boxer in history. And each of these fights was a puzzle that Floyd patiently dismantled round after round. The media pinnacle of his career came in 2015 with the fight of the century against Manny Pacquiao, a clash anticipated for over 5 years. While the bout didn't fully deliver in terms of spectacle, Floyd once again imposed his art of avoidance, frustrating Pacquiao for 12 rounds. Victory again. 50-0 is not just a string of victories, it's a record built on strategy, talent, and ring intelligence rarely matched. Floyd Mayweather wasn't just undefeated, he was untouchable. Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao's story is that of a street child turned living legend. A hungry kid fleeing the poverty of the Philippines who ended up etching his name at the top of 8 different divisions. From flyweight to super welterweight, 8 world titles. An unparalleled feat even among the greatest. In 1998, at just 19 years old, Pacquiao won his first world title in the flyweight division at 50 kilograms. This was just the beginning of a dizzying ascent. In a decade, he climbed the weight classes like others climbed stairs, and at each level, he defeated champions. He wasn't just fast, he was unpredictable, aggressive, ambidextrous, and possessed lightning footwork. Above all, he had an iron will. When he reached super featherweight at 58 kilograms, many thought he had reached his limits. But he faced Marco Antonio Barrera and dismantled him, emerging as a star. Then came Morales, Marquez, and Oscar De La Hoya, a welterweight at 66 kilograms, whom Pacquiao literally dehumanized in the ring, despite a size and weight difference. From that point on, he was considered a phenomenon. He was nicknamed the Mexicutioner, the executioner of Mexican boxers. So thoroughly did he dominate an entire generation of Latino champions. In 2010, he reached the pinnacle with a super welterweight title of 69.8 kilograms after starting at 50 kilograms. It's as if a rooster became a lion, an anatomically unthinkable feat for a normal human body. He achieved it with power and maintained it at each ascent, feet faster than his fists and a mindset forged by the streets. Past 40, he defeated Keith Thurman for a new world title, proving he was more than a veteran. He was a legend who refused to age. To this day, no one has matched his titles in 8 different categories and probably never will, because Pacquiao didn't just challenge boxing. He challenged biology, logic, and destiny. George Foreman. George Foreman wasn't supposed to come back, not at that age, not after all he'd been through. At 45, he was called the old man, the quiet father, the guy selling grills on TV. People chuckled when he announced his desire to become heavyweight world champion again. They had forgotten that before all that, he was a storm. Flashback, 1973, Foreman, only 24 years old. He knocked Joe Frazier down 6 times in 2 rounds, a display of brutality because Foreman was a tank, a monster of raw power, because he didn't just box. He hit as if every punch should shake the earth. He was young, invincible, and emotionless. Even his gaze was a little bit frightening. But in 1974 came Zaire, the rumble in the jungle, Ali, and a defeat that broke him. Foreman was exhausted, trapped by the intelligence of an Ali that was more strategist than warrior. Knockout in the 8th round. That night, the giant fell, and with him his entire aura. The monster became mortal. He continued his career, never shining as before. Then, in 1977, at 28, after a loss to Jimmy Young, he had a near-death experience in the locker room. He claimed to have seen God, and he hung up his gloves, withdrew from the boxing world, became a pastor, and rebuilt himself slowly, away from the ring, away from hatred. He learned to love. Then, 10 years later, he returned, overweight, slow, and smiling. A good family man who spoke of peace but still wanted to box. No one believed it. He was round, 38 years old, and the current champions were young, sharp, and violent. Yet, fight after fight, he progressed. He absorbed punches, struck, and advanced. He was no longer the young Foreman. He was more dangerous, because he had faith and nothing to prove. In 1994, he was 45 years old and was offered Michael Moorer, world champion, undefeated, 26 years younger. Everyone anticipated a massacre, and for 9 rounds, Moorer dominated. Foreman absorbed, patiently. Then, in the 10th round, he landed 2 straight rights, devastating Moorer and collapsing him. Knockout. At 45 years old, the heavyweight world champion, the oldest in history. Now, it's not just a title, it's a life lesson. Foreman proved that scars can become strengths, that failure is not an end, that wisdom can defeat youth. He was no longer the angry Foreman of 1973. He had become a complete man at peace with himself and stronger than ever. Muhammad Ali. He didn't float, he danced. Muhammad Ali didn't just box, he transcended the sport of boxing. His name isn't just etched in the history of the ring, it's sung in the streets and recited like poetry. He was the word, the fire, and the faith. But before the words came the gloves. Cassius Clay, a young prodigy from Louisville, stepped into the spotlight in 1960, winning Olympic gold in Rome. Arrogant, too fast to be real, and he made his professional debut proclaiming, "I'm going to shake up the world." No one believed him. Until that night in 1964, and Sonny Liston, a monster, an intimidator. No one dared to face him. But Cassius Clay wasn't afraid. He taunted him, made a fool of him, and beat him. At 22 years old, he became the world champion. That night, he also revealed his true name, Muhammad Ali. The boy became a prophet. The boxer became a symbol. Ali didn't box. He recited poetry with his fists. He was too fast, too beautiful, too bold. He beat everyone. Patterson, Liston again, Cooper, and then Floyd Patterson, the former champ he humiliated while dancing. But in 1967, the world struck back. He refused to go to the Vietnam War. Quote, "No Viet Cong ever called me an N-word," he said. His titles were stripped and he was banned from boxing. 3 years of exile. 3 years of forced silence. He returned in 1970, a little bit slower and less sharp, but mentally he was stronger. In 1974, he traveled to Zaire to face George Foreman. The world turned its back on him. They said he would die, and he smiled. He invented the rope-a-dope strategy: absorb, exhaust, and surprise. In the 8th round, he exploded. A right hand, Foreman crumbled, and at 32 years old, Ali became the undisputed world champion again. But it wasn't over. In 1978, he lost his belt to Leon Spinks, a rookie. People thought it was the end, but Ali came back again and beat him in the rematch. He became the only man to win the undisputed heavyweight championship 3 times. Not just a title for him, it was a coronation. Rocky Marciano. In the brutal and unpredictable world of heavyweight boxing, where every punch can change a life, Rocky Marciano defied the odds. He remains the only heavyweight champion in history to retire undefeated. 49 wins in 49 fights. A level of perfection that no one has matched even decades later. And yet, nothing predestined Rocco Francis Marchegiano to become a legend. Born in 1923 in Brockton, Massachusetts, the son of Italian immigrants, he worked in a shoe factory before turning to boxing. Too short for a heavyweight at 5 feet 10 inches tall or 1.78 meters. Too slow, with a clumsy style, they said. But Rocky had something no trainer could teach. Willpower, fire, and the rage to win. He turned pro in 1947, and soon his punching power was making headlines. His opponents fell one by one before the final bell. Marciano hit hard, relentlessly, with almost animalistic ferocity. He didn't have Ali's elegance or Patterson's speed, but he had a warrior's heart. On September 23, 1952, Marciano faced the reigning champion, Jersey Joe Walcott. He was getting outboxed and losing on points, but in the 13th round, he unleashed a perfect right hand. Walcott collapsed, unconscious. Rocky Marciano was world champion, and a myth was born. He defended his title 6 times, notably against Ezzard Charles in a bloody war and against another legend in Archie Moore. Each time, he won and often in pain. He took punishment, he bled, but he kept coming forward. In 1956, at age 31, he shocked the world by retiring undefeated and on top. He left quietly, satisfied. No comeback and no unnecessary defeat. He left behind a record as pure as it is rare. Bernard Hopkins. Some champions are born in the spotlight, cradled by hope and recognition. Then there's Bernard Hopkins. He was born in the shadows. A street kid from Philadelphia sentenced to prison at just 17 years old. A robbery, a mistake, and a broken future. The judge gave him nearly 5 years and everyone moved on. Everyone except him. It was behind prison walls that he discovered boxing as a last chance or salvation. He made it his obsession, a path to redemption. When he got out, he didn't return to seek revenge on the world, he came back to conquer it. His career started slowly. He lost his first pro fight, no glitter or promise. But Hopkins wasn't chasing the spotlight. He sought consistency, growth. Every fight made him better. He learned, adapted, and progressed. And in 1995, he finally won his first world title, and that was just the beginning. He held on to his belt for a 10-year reign of rare longevity. He defended it 20 times over those 10 years. He beat Felix Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya, and Antonio Tarver without ever falling for flashy styles. Hopkins boxed old school with positioning, precision, and control. There was no frills, just results. He wasn't flashy. He was deadly. Then, after turning 40, while most of his peers were retired or forgotten, Hopkins remained. Standing tall, disciplined, and many thought he was going to be finished or washed up, but he kept going again and again, pushing the body's limits with the mind. His style evolved, being more defensive and more cunning. He boxed like a chess grandmaster, setting traps round after round, and then came May 21st of 2011. He was 46 years old, and no one truly believed he could return to the top. He faced Canadian Jean Pascal, young, explosive, and the WBC light heavyweight champion. The fight was intense. Pascal was fast and aggressive, but Hopkins was smarter. He wore him down, confused him, and even outclassed him. After 12 rounds, the verdict was in. Bernard Hopkins was world champion at 46 years old. Billy Bird. It's a name few boxing fans know. Billy Bird. No big promotions, no glittering belt around his waist. There is no legend crafted by HBO or Showtime, yet he holds a record that no one ever has come close to. 139 knockouts. Now, that's a mind-blowing statistic, a monument carved in stone and ignored by modern history. Billy Bird fought in the 1920s and 30s, a time when boxers didn't choose their opponents. They stepped into the ring almost every week, and he fought 356 times, and I'm going to repeat that. 356 bouts. That's an insane pace and unthinkable today. For comparison, modern fighters consider a dozen fights a full career. But Bird lived in another world, a world where boxing wasn't a sport, but a job. Rather, not even a job. Survival. Bird didn't box for glory, he boxed to eat and feed his family. He boxed to escape poverty. 139 knockouts, that's more than Mike Tyson, George Foreman, and Deontay Wilder combined. Len Wickwar. Born in England in the 1910s, Wickwar lived in an era when boxing was more than a sport. It was a vocation, a daily struggle against poverty and fate. This young man, modest in build, didn't have the brute strength of a giant or the fame of a media-made champion. But he had something far more valuable: unshakable endurance and iron will. Over a 27-year career, Wickwar fought 400 times. Yes, 400 times, a number that leaves you speechless. He won 342 of those bouts, often by knockout, and never shying away from the ring and never stepping back. This extraordinary longevity wasn't just a fluke. It was the result of rigorous discipline, constant adaptation, and a deep passion for the sweet science of boxing. This colossal record isn't just a sporting feat, it's a testament to what boxing can represent beyond the spotlights. It's the journey of a man who defied time and fatigue, someone who embodied pure perseverance.